Three, two, one. What's up, Kelly?
Hey.
What's going on, guys? How's everybody's day going?
You didn't know what day it was.
Yeah, I know. I get lost. I've been getting confused with the days. I know it is Thursday, though.
Yeah, because I just said it.
Yeah, I know, right? Welcome to the Grand Rapids B&E Business and Entertainment Podcast. This is episode number 10. And I'm here with the lovely Kelly.
Thank you.
And we are having some coffee, actually.
I'm not. I drank mine.
Oh, you already drank yours. Yep. So we've been discussing a lot of like what's coming next with this pandemic and cool things coming up, as far as creative measures, people actually starting to open up now, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everybody is like looking at the world as this. They're finally realizing that there's trees and life outside of what they do. So it's all very new to people.
Yeah, I mean, think about the world slowing down. Maybe not everybody slowed down. At least most people have. The essentials haven't slowed down yet, I think.
I really don't feel like I think people are resisting at all costs. I think some people are chilled out. I think some people are enjoying their family time. But I think the people that have like social anxiety, no, it'd be the opposite. Like people that have anxiety because they're not being social, or they're suicidal, or they have high levels of anxiety and depression. I think they're fighting it by like going to the grocery store or finding things besides being outside.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, there's a lot of just energy that needs to be put out, and people don't know where to put that energy.
Yeah, I for sure just screamed really loud in my car yesterday.
Yeah, well, you had a little episode that happened, so.
Yeah, you have emotions and you gotta get them out. Mm-hmm. And I read a thing that a guy in an apartment complex here in Grand Rapids, a guy just let his kid go out on the porch and scream as loud as they could. And I'm like, that's probably the best solution at this point.
It's a big shift going on. The entire world has changed. There's lots of talk now of things not being the same anymore. What does that look like, right? Where is the world going to next? There's a lot of interesting things happening. There's government control, martial law potentially being put in play. There's social securing as far as like safety concerns and things being adjusted now. So this is a very interesting time of life, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So of course there's a lot of pent up energy and aggression in some of us. But for the most part, I think it's just important to, it's important to like, work through it and think about it and journal in a time like this right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
It's a good time, though. I think it's a great time to slow down. Everything's pretty much slowed down for the most part. And if you're at home and you're watching this and you're wondering, what is my next step because things have ended or things have changed for me, like there's a lot of different creative things you can do. We are imaginative for a reason, right? And it's just cool to be in that space, but it's also very scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's very scary because you don't know what can happen. There's safety concerns. There's what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But I think humanity thrives on uncertainty as much as we don't like it.
I think I realized last night when I was journaling, I realized that you like to be alone so much because you're so curious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why, like, Taymana likes to be alone too. Like, he likes to be in his own element, and he's a very curious kid. Mm-hmm. But I think when you're alone, your curiosity flows. And for people that don't have a good foundation, that curiosity flows into a very negative, downward spiraling place. But if you're positive or you have more creativity, like last night being alone, my curiosity led me down a really bad place, and then I'm like, no, that's not who I am. And then I got very creative and like got a burst of energy. Like I have so much energy today. But I think people are scared to be curious. Like even as a kid, you're pretty much told not to be curious.
True.
Anymore. And
it can lead to bad things or not things.
Yeah, but I mean, even the school system now, I think, puts a pretty big ban on like being curious. So then
it's like, what the hell, man? Why?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, I mean, think about
So crazy.
the kids in the backyard. They're like digging with a shovel that's 8 times the size of them with a point on the end. They're just being curious, but you're like, stop, like stop, and you just yell. But there's no like you're gonna die if you spear somebody with that shovel, you know.
Right. True.
So now people are in a place where you have to be curious. Like you have no choice.
Yeah. There's a huge. You know, we have two choices, I believe, at this point. It's to complain about the circumstances, which we don't have a choice not to. I mean, there's no reason to complain. It is what it is. The world is sick. There's something that happened, and you have to get creative. And to get creative, you have to accept, and then you have to show appreciation for what is. And I think the most important thing about being curious is allowing it to navigate your thoughts, allowing it to like flow through you and not stopping it with social conditioned thoughts of like, you're not supposed to do this and you're not supposed to do that, or that's wrong, and having the expectations in the forefront of, you know, because that's what stops us. And I've done that a lot. Like I do that to myself a lot. I like to stop myself when I'm in the middle of something. I'm like, oh, I stop my curiosity there.
Well, I think it's this is my conspiracy theory side of me, but I think that you're told to not be curious. You actually get disciplined on a very extreme level as a kid to be curious. Like you get suspended, you get, I don't know, like your teacher negatively talks upon you, so then that goes to like mental abuse, and then that's a childhood wound, and you have all this whole process, and then you go to college and you're taught a very certain way.
You stay that mind frame, that mental state of being. You kind of like it flows in life as you get older. Like you stay that way almost.
Just continues. And so I think the difference is if you are parented by somebody that allows you to be curious, then at least you have that foundation. So then like when you have the option as an older kid, you'll revert back to being curious. Well,
I do know too why like my parents would spank me as a curious child, because I would get into things that I didn't need to, right? And I think that's where it gets confusing for most people. It's, as an adult, how do you challenge a kid to be curious but yet keep him out of trouble? And so typically it's like, let's just throw the baby out with the bath water and discipline the child as well as make him feel bad and leave him there. Instead of like discipline the child, correct them, let them know why that's wrong, and then help them understand what's better about it and where they can actually direct their curiosity.
Yeah, I would have beat your ass. Like, Taymana was in your closet the other day with the heater and just like laying upside down in your closet. Yeah. And the whole Rael's just chill. And I'm like, why do I literally looked at him and I go, why do I always have to worry about you doing something that you're not supposed to be doing?
Right. And they're just like,
but that's curiosity.
Yeah, it's just curiosity. They're not, in their minds, they're not doing anything wrong. But, you know, we teach them to like, that's wrong. And it's like, well, what's wrong? Everything's wrong in that category. When in fact, it's the fact that he's in a space where it could be dangerous or it's not useful, right? And so it's just not, it doesn't make sense. But to them, it's like, I'm just having fun.
Yeah, but then so now my conspiracy theory side is that we're taught not to do any of this, and you put people through college, and then they're tied through everything, and now they put us in a position of having to be curious, and so then that instills fear and anxiety and depression, of which we already have because we have $8 million of freaking school debt to pay, and then we have our childhood wounds. Like, we're not gonna fix our childhood wounds because we gotta pay for college.
Right. Everybody's worried about getting that dollar to pay the next dollar so that they're happy.
So you might as well. And we did the same thing.
Now look at this. The entire nation is canceling mortgage payments, work, and everybody's at home for the most part. And then are we unhappy because we actually have this cancel? I mean, this has been, think about this. This is actually kind of like a third world country's dream in a first world country's problem, where we don't have to do anything right now. And most people are anxious. Instead of just enjoying the peace, they're anxious. That blows my mind.
Well, we have no choice but to be like, that's what they are doing. Don't be curious. Be curious. Okay, well, we're gonna let you access the most easy, because you guys are so uneducated now.
Right.
You guys have not used your curiosity, so your curiosity leads to watching the news.
Mm-hmm.
So we're providing you
Which
that.
isn't bad because you have to stay alert and well informed, but there's an excess amount that can
But
happen.
we're gonna continue to produce feelings. So now we produce the feeling that you're curious by watching the news, but
Right.
you're not curious. You're
just
you're not
inundated
asking any
with
questions.
fear.
Curiosity means asking questions,
Right.
and now we're just paralyzed. It's ridiculous.
It's interesting what is going on. So I mean,
All fired up.
yeah, I mean, it's a big, we don't know much of what's happening behind the scenes out there. We just know that we are to stay safe. My question is, and moving a little bit differently here in the topic, is what is happening behind the scenes in the government? And I don't have enough information. I've gathered enough, and there are a few major things happening which I don't know enough to talk about, but if I just point them out, it's like the 5G network's coming up. There's a stimulus package coming out for the American public. There are, there's government control right now that has been in play for almost a week, and by the state as well. And these are things that it makes sense to have them. I'm not saying they're bad. It is to protect the people, but I also feel like there's something bigger going on. Behind everything that's happening.
Absolutely.
And if you read the news, I think you'll see it. It's just hard to convey it and be like, that's exactly the problem, because then there's something else.
Absolutely.
But also that becomes biased because then there's like conspiracy theories and you fall into these like mental loophole or mental
Hamster wheels.
of just information that you have no solidarity about.
Yeah. And it's almost like you create your own reassurance. Like
Right.
you start to talk yourself into it.
Because it seems real, and maybe it is,
Yeah.
but we don't really know if it isn't real also. That's the thing, because it's still just news we're gathering from somewhere else. Until it happens, until we see it and experience it, and then we validify with the news and the data and the information's accurate, it's hard to say 100%.
Yeah,
I
there's
know
just
100% that the virus is real,
Right.
right?
There's
we know
just
that now.
Yeah, there's no reference points at all.
Right. We do know that sanitation, quarantining, 6 feet distance is a thing. Washing your hands, being hygienic. Those things are very important now, and that is real. Everybody's doing it. So it's just everything's an opinion outside of that at this point.
Somebody please tell me, though, how you get takeout. Like, this is us talking from
we're curious about this.
a restaurant point of view, guys. Like, we own Crunchy Munchies. In no way, shape, or form do we want to stop serving our community. We don't do takeout, but we do delivery. But how are you getting takeout food and maintaining 6 feet distance? How are you going to the grocery store and maintaining 6 feet distance? Like, I know a lot of people are handing food through the window.
Right.
Like, they take it out to the car and they have gloves on. But like, you don't know. You have no idea. Like, I am still mind blown.
Right.
Absolutely confused.
Well,
Why?
It's this black and white. There's this like black and white rule line, and then there's this gray zone and everything.
Yeah, like our business is the loophole, and I don't get it.
Right.
And I am not trying to stop it by any means, but I just, like, we're taking extra precaution and doing no contact delivery.
Right.
That cool. Sit it outside your door, go get it. Wave through the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
I mean, it's simple.
I don't
For
get
us, it's a matter of, respecting those boundaries, and we have the ability to do that. But in other circumstances, I don't know how that works. I mean, share with us, guys, how that works in the restaurant.
Please enlighten me.
Because no contact, but you have to pick up the order next to somebody else. Either way, we're still coming in contact with each other because, we depend on each other as people. However, we have to implement the 6-foot rule. And I think this might be a new norm for a while, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I love shaking hands and giving hugs. Like, it's a wonderful thing. But if it means risking my life for it, then maybe not. you know, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what it comes down
So,
to.
so we should probably stop.
Yeah, actually, you know what's interesting? Speaking of that,
Yes,
is
yes, we have to stop.
no, get this. So I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and he talks about how in biblical times, there was the pure and the impure sexually, right? Well, he goes, what was impure sexually was the fact that if you did some whatever acts of sexual acts, and you couldn't, and there wasn't the sewer system to basically what we have nowadays, like the plumbing systems that we have in play, you become impure, right? So, I mean, sex is a messy thing. And so then you add poor drainage or water situations, like a good water system, then you are impure, because how do you cleanse yourself now properly?
Right.
And so I realized, like, wow, that's true for society. Like we deem impure, disgusting things that we cannot wash. So water is an essential thing. And so in a city where there is running water and sewage and like all this great advancement we've had, thanks to like people like Benjamin Franklin in history, and a lot of these great leaders, we now have the access and the ability to maintain a clean environment and overcome an epidemic like this within our homes.
True.
You know, back then they didn't have that capacity whatsoever.
Yeah.
There were no sewage systems. There were no lights in the streets. There was no level of security we have now. They didn't have cars like we did. So when anything like this hit, it's just a wipeout.
True. That was the first thing I thought of was water. I mean, I don't like drinking our water anyway, like
Right.
from the Brita or from the faucet. Like, I'd rather have, like, I want to have bottled water. We've been on the fence.
Mineralized.
Yeah, like we've been on the fence about buying a filtered thing for your house
Yeah.
forever because, like, we spend so much money on water.
Right.
Like,
It's a lot
ridiculous
of- I
amounts.
mean, I'm on the verge of just buying a filter at this point, like a
Yeah.
stage 6 filter or a phase 6.
Because it's just ridiculous. But I see everybody wiping out this toilet paper, and I'm like, what about water? If you don't have clean water, you're screwed.
Yeah.
in so
it's a
many
wrap.
areas.
So that's considered an essential. That's where I need to go work.
But that's so many people's mindset about toilet paper is like you were saying when it first happened. You're like, it's just people want to be cleanly. Like,
Right.
you have sex, you want to clean up. You take a shit, you want to clean up. Like, but to me,
You
I'm
eat,
like,
you want to clean up. You know, you got to wash your dishes. You
Yeah.
got to wash your laundry. You got to
Yeah.
take a bath or shower.
but like, in my mind, I'm like, well, if you have clean water, you're good. Like, you have washcloths,
Yeah.
and then you have clean water to wash your washcloths, and you have clean water to wash the washcloth with and wipe your butt. Like,
Right.
water's everything.
Right. It's really all a habit. Toilet paper and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of necessary to hoard toilet paper because companies will produce these things more unless the virus kills the workers, God forbid. And, you know, we have all the essentials to be calm and chill during this time and just get through it and get over it, because we will get over it. There's no doubt in my mind that we won't get through this pandemic. Humans are much better than a pandemic. It might take a few of us out. God forbid it takes any one of us out, right? But if it happens to me, it happens to me. That's what I'm under. I don't want it to, but
Yeah.
we don't know right now. We don't know unless we're staying safe. But it's just, it's easy to think about when it comes to like sanitation. It's proper. It's just common sense sanitation in my perspective.
Well, I went by, going back to my house yesterday and saw a fire truck, and there was a car accident. And then I wrote a post about it because I'm like, there's so many people dealing with all this shit, and then they have somebody die in a car accident that's close to them.
Gosh.
And then you can't have a funeral for such and
because
so,
you can't gather.
which means you might not be able to say goodbye to your person.
Ooh.
And then you have babies being born and dads don't get to be in the hospital room. I'm like, there is way more things for other people than like what
Right,
I'm
like
going
the world
through
is
right
still
now.
happening.
Yeah, like
It's
babies don't
still-
stop being born,
right.
people don't stop dying.
So, you know, prayers to people out there going through other situations besides this and then this, because it's just not easy and it's just life. It's like sometimes I hear people getting very upset. Like if you go on your Facebook, something happens, people are highly upset and complaining. And you know, it's like that's one perspective to look at it as, but then there's also like, wow, I am actually stronger than all this. Like, why does all of this happen and I'm still able to conquer it? It's like we have a barometer of like how much bullshit we can handle mentally, and then life gives us this much more and we go, but then we adjust and we go, oh, I remember when I couldn't handle only this much. And then you grow and then you go, now I can handle all that and then some. And then life goes, oh yeah, and stacks it up even higher.
Yeah.
I just think we have no capacity as humans, or unlimited capacity to handle things, right? It's like just the way we're designed.
Yeah, I think so. I think the worst thing you can do in this time is not take care of yourself. And like, we made a huge decision yesterday, and it was hard, and it pushed me past my limit. And the number one thing I can't do, and what you can't do, and what everybody else can't do, is to just stop. Like, that's the worst thing you can do.
Right.
Which,
especially like even in cases like now.
Yeah, which gets gray and confusing with like sit back and relax, and like you have the necessities and you have the tools, you have toilet paper, you have a house, you have all these things. That doesn't mean to like sit back and chill. Like, I know if I'm in a bad mental state, I'll go off the deep end quick. Like, I'll stop eating, I'll stop caring, I'll literally just sit on the couch and watch my kids walk back and forth all day and go, hey, good job. Like,
well,
no
the mind just
problem.
goes into survival mode at that point. It's really what happens, I realize, because fear kicks in. Survival is on basically your reticular activating system goes into like focus on surviving. So then all your resources and energy go into that one thing. You forget about the essentials elsewhere, and you want to focus on like this one thing that's making you feel a certain way. So we go into survival mode, and it's like, how do you step out of that?
Well, you have to. I've been working on for the past month, like, what makes me feel good, like what puts me into my best element, because there's so many things. Like, you have to make sure that those things aren't wavered by outside conditions. Like, the things that make you can't be wavered by someone else or something else. Like, I've seen my mom thrive best when she's working all the time. Like, I've seen myself thrive best when I'm in a relationship with somebody. Like, those can't be determinators of how you are as a person. So for the past month personally, like, I focused on like, I love to write. Like, writing makes me a better person.
Oh yeah.
Showering, like, when I take a shower,
Oh yeah, the best thoughts happen in the shower.
Not even that, there's that portion, and then there's the portion of it's just water.
Right. It's like a cleansing experience.
Yeah, I must really like
not just
water.
physically. Right? Yeah. I know, right? I swear it has to go back to like birth, you know.
Yeah.
Being in your mother's placenta. Sounds so weird.
It's true though.
You come out of your mother's placenta, her water, and you know, you're like bathed in this clean, beautiful, nutritious water. Like, it sounds gross actually, but
it's true.
That's how I feel that a shower is. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's back into that state almost.
It's anything. I mean, I turned water sounds on the other day when I was just super high stress.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was all day. I mean, from like 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. was water sounds on the Google.
Yeah, I challenge you guys actually. Sit down and spend half an hour just in silence with water sounds off of whether that's your laptop or your computer or your Alexa, whatever, or your Hey Google. There's my Google almost went. I have to say it quietly because my Google might go off. So sit with water sounds, because what I notice is that it's a very cleansing. It's like a mentally cleansing feeling. Like, you purge almost the negative thoughts of your mind when you're allowing water to flow through your thoughts like that. It's so cool.
It's the same. I mean, when you float in the ocean, when you go, I don't know. I don't think everybody has that. I really don't think everybody enjoys water like that. I mean, I think everybody like has
I hope they do.
yeah, but like
Like if they don't,
I mean, my first trigger like, yesterday, I'm like, I want to drive to the lake.
yeah.
It's just there's some people want or like yearn for that.
I'm a water person. I can relate to that. Like I remember being in my 20s, early 20s, and thinking, whenever I want to de-stress, I just go to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first trigger. Is just go to the beach.
What sign are you? Are you water, earth, or air? Do you know those?
I have no idea.
Because earth is like, I mean, it's not by your birth. It's not like a zodiac thing. It's literally like your.
I'm not one of the Captain Planets. Earth, water.
Shut up. It's like a thing that you would do. We did it in school. When people would come in, they would close their eyes and they would smell different scents, and different scents have a correlation of like water, earth, fire, and air. So fire is like you like the high energy, you like cinnamon and spice and those kinds of things. Water is, I mean, think about it, like candles are made that way too.
It's so hard for me to say because I love fire and water. Like I'm kind of a pyro.
Well, yeah, you're a pyro.
Kind of a pyromaniac a little bit.
Guys, he'll just like
Yeah.
fling the thing laying down the other night. He goes, it singed my face hair.
Okay, I'm not that crazy.
No, he laid in bed and did that.
Yeah, so
You smelled my skin.
no, I did not. It was close enough to be dangerous, but not dangerous enough to be close.
Okay.
So no, I love like fire, but I love water too. I don't like getting in cold water though. That's a no.
No. Yeah, I think the worst thing you can do though is to not focus on those things and not take care of yourself, and then sometimes doing the hardest thing is the best thing, and it's never a good time to do it, and it's hard. Like it's hard to focus on the things that might make you think about the thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you can't stop doing your routine. Like you can't. It's so easy to just stop writing, stop doing all the things. But I think you get to a point in your personal development too that you know that it's so crucial that you naturally are passionate about it. So you know that it makes you feel good, so you don't stop doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that for sure, where I remember meditating over water sounds at a river, and it was the most amazing cleansing feeling. Like, and I go back to that always now. So that's really cool. But fire is like invigorating too. I don't know. Fire is fun.
Well, that makes you earth.
Probably then. Well, you just said fire, air.
There's air, fire, earth, and water. But if you're like a balance of both, it makes you earth.
Okay.
Which means you're grounded.
I did not know that.
I can do the little test on you and put like dots.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah.
I'll have to try it. Okay. So post below, guys, any new creative things that you've discovered, if you're the person that's curious or likes to come up with new ideas that invigorate your life or revitalize your life in times like this. Where do you turn? How do you pivot during times like this? Pivoting is a huge word right now.
Yeah. How do you see yourself maintaining your pivot, and then also how do you see yourself keeping your independence or keeping your routine while being amongst other people? Because that's a really hard thing for people.
Yeah.
To pivot is one thing, and then to pivot amongst the chaos of the world, and
that's another one.
And then to pivot while being around whoever it is, your spouse, your business partner, your kids, everything else. Yeah. Like how are you doing that?
Well, I think that's a question for the next podcast. So we're going to leave it here.
Okay.
We're going to leave it here, guys. All right. So we'll finish up with this. I know that we can go on long talks and different topics because there's so much to talk about, and it's pretty deep, you know, as far as like what's going on, what's going to happen, what's really taking place, and so many ideas, thoughts, feelings, things just popping up constantly. So is there anything else you want to say?
No, I was trying to keep.
She was in the middle of like really getting into it. So we'll talk next time on the next podcast about the new creative things that we're coming up with and what you guys are coming up with too. So do share And your last question is very important, so we'll get back to that.
Peace, guys.